first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. As always, appreciate you joining us. We are live streaming on our website, on our apps, and our social media channels. So lots of places that you can catch this show. We cover a lot of different things on here, a lot of different segments, and sometimes we have discussions about things that are important, like being supportive to those who are maybe going through a hard time around the holidays, whether that's dealing with grief or otherwise. And we thought we'd bring on some experts to talk about this. So joining us right now, we've got Lula, who is right there with us, as well as Dr. Donna Schuurman from the Dougy Center. And thank you to both of you for being here with me today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Good. Well, let's start this off. And I think, maybe Donna, if you want to kind of start off and just maybe for everybody who doesn't know, explain what the Dougy Center is, and then kind of lead us into this topic that we're going to be covering here today.
Thanks, Greg. The Dougy Center is the National Grief Center for National Center for Children and Families who are experiencing either the death of a family member or the advanced serious illness of a family member. And we've been around over 40 years, started right in Portland, Oregon, and we serve about 600 children at any one time. About 450 of their parents or adult caregivers in peer grief support groups. We start with 3-year-olds up through teens, young adults, and their adult family members. So it is a local nonprofit. We are completely supported by the community. There's no fee to families. Many families have suffered financial loss as well when someone dies, particularly if it's a wage earner in the family. And Lula has been a participant at the Dougy Center, and
yeah, I'm sorry if you're hearing anything in the background. That's just because we're in the newsroom. It's okay. Don't ignore any of the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's always news happening.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, Lula, why don't you share what brought you to the Dougy Center? And
yeah, that'd be great, Lula. And thank you for being here as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
So when I was 6, my dad had suffered from cancer my pretty much whole life, I think. And he ended up dying. And I remember getting a phone call while me and my mom were sitting in a Costco parking lot saying, "Hi, would you like to come to the Dougy Center?" And about a month later, I was there, and I've been going ever since.
And what was that feeling like for you going into that Dougy Center? I mean, I can't imagine, the loss that you've gone through. I mean, I'm very sorry about that. And finding, the Dougy Center, what is it about it that made you want to go in there? What did you enjoy when you walked in there?
I think that there was a room in there called the hospital room, and I went there like every time for the first month, 2 of going to Dougy Center. And I remember my mom being very weirded out about it because my dad was, before he died, like very much in the hospital all the time. And I think that helped me heal in a very special way to me.
Something familiar that you could grasp and something that you could go to and feel comfortable with.
what about also the other thing that is significant about the Dougy Center is kids are with other kids their age. And so a lot of kids we hear, like, I don't know anybody in my school or anybody in my neighborhood who's like had a dad die. What's it like being in a group with, other kids kind of your age, Lula?
It's very nice because sometimes we can share similar experiences, but also talk about each other's grief with still that comfort of knowing everyone here gets what I've gone through in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
They're familiar with some of what you've experienced.
And
go ahead, Donna.
I was just going to ask, you were 6, Lula, when your dad died. How old are you now, and what grade in school are you in?
I'm 10. I'm in 5th grade, and I go to Gaffney Lane.
Nice. Well, Lula, I mean, it sounds like that, the Dougy Center has really helped you out here over these last few years, not only having some place to go, but also to be able to, talk to other people, as you mentioned, around your same age who have experienced some of what you've gone through. And I think, Donna, one of the things I wanted to talk about with this segment too is just, holidays don't change anything. Grief and things like this happen. So I think it's kind of an important reminder for people of just what is the right way to approach something like this. And say someone or a friend or a family member who's going through that, and maybe a little bit of an educational advice on how to handle that, how to approach that, because I think that's hard for everybody to really understand and grasp what to do and what to say.
It can be, Greg. Thank you. The holidays can be hard and tricky for a lot of people. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of expectations, sometimes traditions, travel, all of those kinds of things. And for people who have a family member with an advanced serious illness, or who is dying, who has just died around the holidays, it's can be a challenging time. And I just encourage people to reach out and say, I know this can be a challenging time for you. We're thinking of you. I think people need to be able to say no to things if they need to, but just to express that you care. And for a lot of people who've had a death, they shift what they used to do maybe at the holidays. And so it's not a time to avoid people who are hurting. It's a time to even more reach out and just say, we're thinking of you, we care, take over a plate of homemade cookies, reach out and ask if someone wants to have lunch, just really reaching out so that the family doesn't feel alone and isolated.
So making that effort if somebody is going through something, because I think for some people, sometimes that can be one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't want to be intrusive. I don't want to bother them. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they need privacy. But you're saying it's okay to actually reach out to them and ask.
I think it's helpful to reach out without being pushy and without, overdoing it. Because if everyone says, I don't want to bother them, then the family has no contact from anybody and thinks nobody cares. So to do it thoughtfully and kindly, but to reach out.
That's good.
I wonder.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, Lula, if you have any traditions that changed around the end of your holidays in your family, or?
Well, there was one thing. I'm not German, but my dad would always do this German pickle thing. We had a pickle ornament, and he'd always hide in the tree, and he had me go find it. And we don't do that a lot anymore. And I remember that, and it made me really happy. I don't really know why. That changed, and just being able to sit with my dad and snuggle up watching a Christmas movie. But now, obviously, I can't do that with his urn. So,
something that changed there for you. Lula, let me ask you, and if you feel comfortable doing this, what advice would you have for other, children who are maybe going through now what you went through?
Thank you for bringing this topic up, because I think this is a really important topic. Don't say everything's going to be okay, because that isn't gonna help. And it's important to keep the mindset of it's all gonna be okay someday, but right now my feelings are okay.
You mean like whatever feelings you have, Lula, whatever feelings you have are okay, right?
Yeah.
And that's good.
It sounds like kind of balancing hope, but also that it's hard. It can be hard, and it can be sad, and it can also be hopeful. Both.
Donna, let me ask you kind of the same question. What would you recommend for people to do? I mean, other than reaching out, certainly for that, but what are some other things that people can do to just help and be supportive around this? any time of year really that somebody's going through this?
Well, I think phone calls without expectation of, you have to answer. You can just call and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. I'm holding you in my heart at this time. Offers to take a walk, offers to walk somebody's dog, offers to watch their kids while you clean your house or go shopping. There are lots of things to do. I think one of the things that's hard for families is when someone just says, let me know if there's anything I can do. Because it kind of puts the burden back on the people to think of things. And it's kind of like if you're newly bereaved, if this is your first holiday season without the person in your family who died, it's hard to even focus on trying to figure out for somebody else what they can do to be helpful. So again, cards, handwritten cards through the mail, not just emails, not just electronic, mean a lot. I think cookies, casseroles, that can be overdone too, but, just kind of offering some things that you can do and then letting the family know you care.
So offering maybe something physical like that, like a physical card, or like you mentioned, cooking something or bringing that over and actually reaching out and saying something. Yeah.
I think something that's always welcome from families too is a card that says, I wanted to share a memory that I have of your dad. Something maybe you didn't know, like we played basketball in college together and he would always elbow me, or, whatever those things are, because you're not creating new experiences, and to be able to share memories can be really important and helpful for families.
Lula, has that been your experience? Has that helped you out?
Yeah. Because when you're being surrounded with people who care about you, it gets easier in some ways.
That's
like,
great.
You're not alone. You're not the only one.
I wouldn't exactly say that. I'd say that it's the feeling of knowing people care about you.
The feeling of knowing people care is really important.
This has all been, really good information, I think, for anybody out there who's not quite sure of what to do to help out somebody else. And then if somebody is on the other side of it, experiencing the grief, it's nice to know that there's places to go, like the Dougy Center. And I think for everybody out there too, can you, for maybe somebody who doesn't know, and I know we talked a little bit about the beginning, but just for anybody out there who's experiencing this or knows someone who's experiencing a loss like this, how can they get in contact with the Dougy Center and interact with what you have going on?
Yeah, our email website is dougy.org, dougy.org. They can call us. The website's on there. The phone number's on the website. Again, we work with children starting as young as 3 up through young adults. And for 3 to 17, 18-year-olds, we also have groups for parents or adult caregivers that meet at the same time that the children or teens, young adult groups meet. So we'd encourage you to look on our website. We're a local nonprofit. We do trainings all over the world to help people develop programs like Dougy Center in their own neighborhoods. And we're here to help.
Well, I think, I'm very appreciative of both of you joining us here today just to have this conversation, to talk about this. And Lula, any final thing that you would like to say to anybody out there?
Just ask people rather than saying that you know how they feel. Ask them how they feel.
That's great advice. That's great advice right there. Well, thank you to both of you for joining me today here, for joining us for this conversation to talk about this and share your experiences. I really, really appreciate it. Donna, any final thing that you want to let anybody know about?
I think what Lula said was perfect, is don't assume you know things. Don't assume you can't ask. Just ask people. And if they're ready to tell you, they'll answer your questions.
This has been very informative. I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much. And, I hope you have some great holidays coming up, whatever you're celebrating, whatever you're doing. And thank you for joining us here on Fox 12 Now. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Greg.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye.
bye. And thank you very much. So for everybody who's watching, this is Fox 12 Now. And again, we cover a lot of different segments here on this show, whether that's informative news segments. Sometimes it's deeper conversations like that. And sometimes we take, we cover events. We cover all kinds of things here. So I thank everybody who's been joining us here for this segment. We have lots of them you can watch on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, on the apps. I encourage you to download the Fox 12 Oregon apps, another great way to watch this show. And so if you are watching now, if you're watching live, you're going to see the social media channels. Those will end. We'll be back at 1:30 p.m. where we're going to be talking about the Alaska Airlines flight attendant picketing that was going on today. In case you didn't know, they were picketing out there at PDX, talking about an upcoming vote on whether to strike or whether to accept an offer. So we're going to discuss all of that actually with the president of the local union about what it is that they are looking to accomplish. So that's coming up at 1:30 p.m. Good discussion that's going to be happening there. Probably going to be talking about some volcanoes too, but you'll see the social media channels end right now. We'll continue on over at the website and the apps, and then I will talk to you again here at 1:30 p.m. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.